Hello. Hello. Please, like I can't hear anyone. Please, Elizabeth, can you hear me? Elizabeth, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and
Oh,
clear.
okay, okay. Okay, perfect. Gilbert,
Yes, Mr. Norman.
yeah, you'll be the one to share your screen, right? With your
Yes,
slides, eh?
sure.
Okay. So what I'll introduce you and just give a brief background, eh?
Yes.
And then I'll let you to know maybe where if there are any questions, I'll be supporting so that you don't end up coordinating, receiving and sending, eh?
Sure.
Otherwise, you're good?
I'm very good.
Okay, perfect. Liz is so quiet, and I see she's capable of hearing, eh?
Who?
Liz, Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Yeah, she's so quiet, and I think she should be capable of hearing, eh?
Maybe she's on the road.
Because I think they've disabled the rest of the people. I see small numbers, eh?
Or the mic is disabled. She's saying the mic is disabled. Maybe the person who said the meeting can set for them.
I don't know who. I don't know. It's let me first see if I have those rights. No, it must be Rachel. Let me first see if I can. I think she had done it. She left the moderator and who and the moderator and the speaker. Okay, I think we are just a few minutes away from starting.
Yeah.
Welcome, team, as we prepare to start. As you can see, most of the mics are muted, so we'll be able to use the react sign to indicate if you're able to hear me, you would react with a thumb up so that we can prepare and start. So that's what I just want as we get the proper numbers to be able to start this session. So I don't know who is hearing me. I don't know if I'm audible. And I would also ask, yes, our speaker of the day to tell us if he's clear. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's very clear. It's very clear.
Okay. See, the numbers are not bad, but maybe if I utilize a few first minutes to introduce the topic and introduce our main speaker, this would be much helpful. To keep time, we'll start, and thanks everyone that has joined us. I'm Norman Ainomjisha. I'll be moderating this webinar. And just a brief background, I'm a health and safety practitioner with over 10 years in practice, worked in various industries that include oil and gas, and I've been much into logistics. So this topic really means a lot to me, and I know there's no organization where road transport is not seen as a focal. If you're not transporting goods, at least you're transporting people. So it's an important part. And what Gilbert will be giving us more is the mitigating risks and reducing accidents in fleet operations in an organization. And as we could be able to look into this, what could be the value? What's the value of freight? What could be the value of road transport in most businesses or organizations? Yeah. Just before I go into it, deep into this, I'll speak to a little bit about Gilbert, who will also maybe give more onto himself. As you can say, he's a member, he's a Kenyan WASPAC, or the Workplace Professionals member, the organizing secretary. He's a government-approved boiler LPG air receiver inspector, lifting equipment inspector. He will speak much onto that. He's the OHS advisor. If you can look, he has many specialties, and I think he will give us much insights into this. I'll allow him to introduce himself, then I'll introduce the topic, and then we'll be rolling. Thank you. Gilbert, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Norman. Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. As you've been told, my name is Gilbert Mariaka. I'm an engineer by profession. Throughout my experience, I've got over 10 years of experience from the manufacturing industry, transport and logistics, construction industry, and service industry in clearing and forwarding and all that. I'm an expert in terms of equipment inspections, as Norman has said. Alongside that, I'm also a CEO of a company. I run a company that does health and safety consultant services. We are approved to do trainings, equipment inspections, and of course, health and safety audits, fire and environmental health and safety audits as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Norman. It's a good session. I hope we'll learn, all of us. You can introduce the topic as we start.
Thank you, Gilbert, for that brief introduction. And now, just a little nip into this: why are we looking at road transport? Because before you put mitigation measures, before you think of reducing something, it means it has an impact. And to organizations, it has an impact on the organizations as a general, it has an impact on the people. Because if you could see in our country, it's like almost 100% of how we move or how we move things is dependent on the road transport, or depends on the fleet operations, how we run them. So in this background, I want to give just a few statistics for you to understand why this is so important. So the first one is about the global traffic fatalities. Over 1.35 million deaths annually, and that's reported by World Health Organization. Over 1.35 million people perish in road accidents. And that tells you, if you are an organization moving people with vehicles, with freight, you should be concerned to understand that it's already a problem. If we talk about losing 1.3 million globally lives, why shouldn't you be concerned? And I think this topic today will give us that much effort, will give us an insight on how we can make sure that if this is road transport is inevitable, so we need to make sure we have controls in place. And who are vulnerable? One, the person being transported may be a bit safer. The pedestrians, the cyclists, the motorists. And I believe between me and you, you understand, if you go in a casualty ward in any country, those are the most people you'll find in, less of the people who are occupying the vehicles. So I don't want to go much into the depths of this, but I just want to also give just one other statistic. One thing that is important is to understand that the road crashes cost countries over 3% of their GDP. So this is a country. That means if it's an organization, it can cost you a reputation, it can cost you revenue, and it can make people not want to work with you. So having given you this background, you'll allow me give back Gilbert Mariaka to take us through the pillars, the foundation, the principles. We can be able to make sure that we don't end up a statistic, we don't end up losing company reputations in order to use this road transport, which is totally inevitable. Gilbert, over to you. Let's give what people have been waiting for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norman. Thank you very much. And that's a very good introduction. And actually it covers, or it will, I'll be running on what you have actually given introduction. As I've already introduced myself, I'm into logistics, and therefore allow me go through the slides on what are prepared for you. And later on, Norman will be able to be checking questions, and maybe you can be able to share what we have learned. As I was saying, also I'm an organizing secretary for WASPAC. Before I forget, is that we have a conference coming in October 17 and 18. You are all welcome, but of course I'll talk about it at the end of the presentation. Now we can proceed from here. Let's go to the next slide, please. We will go to the content of we will go to the content of the slides, and then after that we'll be able to proceed. I don't know whether the one projecting. Yes, thank you. Let's go. Let's look at the content. I will be able to look. We'll be able to look at just a slight definitions of what we are going to face in this presentations, and then we will look at the 5 pillars that we can be able to look at for us to be able to mitigate the road accidents. One of it is the driver management. Because we are talking about road transport, of course, you cannot be able to miss a driver. We look at vehicle management. For you to have road transport, you must have a vehicle. For you to have a road transport also, we'll be able to look at the journey management. We'll also be able to look at health and safety and environment organization. How have you organized your health and safety in the company? And then, of course, we look at the health and safety and management you have in the organization. By us covering the 5 pillars there, you will have covered 70% of your road traffic accidents or risks, depending on how you'll be able to handle it. Now, let's go to the next slide. We want to look at, I'm sorry, I'm not able to share my screen from my end, and therefore I'm depending on.
I don't know. I may have to open the slides because I
Alternatively, I
don't
can
know
open
who is
mine here and
opening it.
proceed.
You can share your screen.
I'm unable to share the screen. It's deactivated. If you can deactivate for me.
See, yeah. You first as you continue through the discussion, we'll go. Just first continue as we rectify that.
Thank you. I wish it was in a slide mode because it was having some more animations that could help in terms of explanations. But anyway, let's look at logistic operations. That is all transport of goods in heavy vehicle. Then we look at the driver. Is any person operating a vehicle in the course of the business? We look at a vehicle, that means any vehicle, or owned, contracted, rented, and leased. When we are talking about road transport, we'll be looking at also, you will be owning trucks, or they could be contracted, or you could have leased them or rented them. So that also belongs to the organization. We'll be able to look at that. And then, of course, we look at the journey. That's any travel by road that's planned or conducted in the performance of business. And therefore, once we cover that, we'll be able to understand what we're talking about. Now, if these slides were functioning in a presentation mode, you could have seen this track. For us to have road transport, there must be movement of cargo or of trucks from point A to point B. And of course, there will be movement from point B to point A. What we are looking at now is what are these risks? What are these mitigation measures we can put in place to help us not or reduce accidents from point A to point B? Now, let's go to the pillar number 1. The pillar number 1, we are talking about driver management. When we're talking about driver management, we want to look at, in a company, when you are recruiting your drivers and screening, do you have a policy in place? Do you have a criteria that you use for you to be able to have the correct kind of drivers that will be able to help you run your business? Do they have valid driving license? Do they have the minimum age? Do you have the minimum age requirement when you are doing recruitment? Do they have the qualifications for heavy goods vehicle drivers? Do they have medical fitness that is required for them to be able to operate the trucks? These are some of the things that you need to have in an organization, and especially in terms of experience and knowledge of road traffic regulations, for you to be able to mitigate the risks that can be able to come from a driver. Under the same driver management, when you on board, you have done recruitment, you have done screening. This is the correct person you have in place. Do you have the training, the induction part, the initial training? Do you have a training program that helps you reduce or communicate with the driver what are some of your expectations in the company? Does that training have advanced driving program in it? Because when you go through advanced driving, you'll be able to realize that or you'll be able to be trained that when you are a driver on the road, you are the only sane person. All the other people driving around you are insane. And therefore, do you have a program that trains, that tells the trainers, or the drivers, sorry, that whatever you have on the road, you are the only sane person, and therefore you are driving the other people on the road? Do you have a training matrix that runs across from the time of onboarding to the point the driver maybe leaves the company? Do you have a continuous training program, do you look at the turnover, the driver turnover programs? Because if you have high turnover in a company, then it means there's a problem with the company, because you cannot be able to have high turnover without having a problem, which means either you have a lot of bad culture in the company whereby you don't take care of them in terms of their performance and recognize them, or you have having a recruitment process that is either biased, that's biased. That's biased. Sorry for that. And as a process, you get that the employees or the drivers at the workplace are not happy, and therefore you have high turnover. Do you do that analysis in terms of high turnover? Do you look at the driver performance? Do you have driver disciplinary code, whereby if you do a mistake as a driver, you brought in, you sat down and you're told about your mistakes? Do you have the feedbacks coming in from the drivers? If you have all that and the drivers feel that they are home, you'll be able to reduce the risks a much great. And therefore, this is part of the program when it comes to the driver that can be able to help companies reduce their the accidents. Actually, most of the problems we have when it comes to recruitment process is nepotism, or we're recruiting friends. And as a result, we end up recruiting people who are not competent to be able to help you mitigate your risks on the road. So when it comes to the drivers, that we have to be able to say that you need to look at the driver recruitment process and you screen them. The onboarding part of it, that's the training, the initial training, that's induction. You need to have a continuous program in terms of trainings and upskilling them. And of course, the technology is changing on the road. Driver turnover, you need to analyze that as a company and confirm whether is the problem the company or is the problem the drivers, or is the problem is I don't have the correct tools, like correct trucks for my drivers to be happy about or comfortable about when they're having them. And then do proper driver performance management that can be able to actually help them to improve, and also punish for those who are not able to follow the programs that we are put in place. Next is we look at the vehicle. We look at the vehicle. You're finished with the driver. Now you come to the vehicle. What do you know the general requirements of the vehicle? The vehicles in your country. Have you looked at the legislative requirements? Okay. Have you checked the local requirements? Have you looked at the international standards? Have you looked at whether you have heavy goods vehicle fitted with anti-locking braking systems? Do you have all that in place? We look at the vehicle maintenance. Do you have a proper preventive maintenance management system in your workplace, which takes into consideration the manufacturer's specifications? Because at times you can have a very good preventive maintenance program, but you are not following what the manufacturer has given you on the onset, and therefore you end up doing a wrong thing. Does the preventive maintenance management system include also health and safety critical equipment? Do you have those critical items you identify in a vehicle and say, if the vehicle has no X, Y, Z, you cannot be able to move from the yard or from a place of parking until they have been sorted? Do you have the pre-trip walk around the process to ensure that drivers of heavy goods check for hazards before the trip starts? Okay, that's the track. Do you have a program whereby the vehicle is inspected before it moves out of the parking lot or the loading place? Do you have the skilled workshop people who work on your trucks? You could be having very good trucks, very good preventive maintenance, but the people who are working on those equipments are not competent to be able to identify or to do a diagnosis of what is the problem of the trucks and to be able to assist you in terms of correcting the problems. In terms of the vehicle, that's what I could be able to look at. You need to look at whether the vehicle has all the insurances, proper tires in place. Okay, you need the proper workshop place, proper fitted gadgets to enable you have, for example, speed governors. But that one will be able to cover it under journey management program. The one who was moving the slides, please, Norman. Move to the next slides. When it comes to vehicles, do you also analyze the vehicles you have in terms of the breakdowns? Do you look at a vehicle, if you have got 100 vehicles, do you normally analyze the breakdowns according to your program? Do you maybe notify or note that maybe some specific kind of brand of vehicles give you problem and then you have a mitigation measure on them? The next pillar that we can be able to look at is the journey management plan. You have already checked or you have confirmed you have got a very good drivers in place. They have gone all through the program. You have checked the tracks you have, they meet all the standards required. They have everything that's required in place. They have been properly maintained. They've done service very well. The next thing now you look at is the journey management plans. Now you have already loaded the truck. Now, do you have proper journey management plans? Which is between the supply points and the destination points. Okay. Do you have rest places on the road where your drivers can be able to move and have a rest? Do you have that mandatory kind of policy whereby your drivers cannot have a continuous movement until they have some rest time after some hours? Is it documented and communicated to all your drivers? Now, is the JMB readily available to drivers during the journey? Because it's something that needs to be given by the supervisor before leaving the place of origin. Okay, do we have briefs? Because in the journey management plans, it also gives you the risks on the road you'll be able to meet on the road. Do you carry out road hazard mapping and black spots? Because for you to be in logistics, you must understand the routes that you use on your during your businesses, and therefore, when you go through the route, you identify hazards. Those hazards should be part of the things that have been the journey management programs. Now, do you carry out the route hazard mapping? You identify the risks, the black spots, and then you'll be able to move forward. Do you communicate these hazards you find to the drivers? Do you give drivers the rest hours? That comes into when it comes to channel management plan. Like where I'm working is that we don't allow our drivers to drive beyond 6 p.m. Should you need more time for you to get a safer parking, of course, you need to call back to office for you to be given permission to be able to move to the safer place. Do you have that program in place, or your drivers just drive 24 hours without having a rest or without taking care of them? Do you have vehicle monitoring systems under journey management plans? Do you have vehicle monitoring systems, either GPS? I've seen some people having those who went when we went to Tanzania to see where Jackie works. We saw a very good program whereby they have real live videos coming direct to the screens. In case of an accident, you can be able to download this, the videos, and you can be able to see what really happened. Do you have those kind of programs to be able to help you even when there's an accident? You can be able to know what is the root cause and what you can be able to do to help that. Then another issue is on that is do you have ongoing structured on-road audit programs to address the key risks identified? Okay, when you do hazard mapping or hazard identification, of course, the hazard changes on a regular basis. Do you do it regularly, or you do a one road survey and then you use it for the next 5 years, not knowing that the roads are changing and there's a lot of construction taking place? on the roads, and then the hazards or the black spots are also changing on a daily basis. I don't know, Norman, whether you can be able to hear me. Are we there?
You're very audible.
Very audible. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much. Now, the next pillar is the organization. The organization. As an organization, do you have a road transport organization that have an HSE policy? Do you have an HSE policy that covers driving aspects? Does the policy have drug and alcohol policies? That's a drug and alcohol substance abuse policies. Do you have spot checks in terms of people coming to work drunk? Because most drivers come to work drunk. In Kenya, we have what we call CAT. CAT is, I don't know whether it's in Uganda, it's something people chew to make them not to sleep. Do you have a policy of people using those and sleeping substances in place? Okay. Do you have a mobile phone policy whereby you don't allow your drivers to use phones while driving? Do you have that in program? Because sometimes phones can be a distraction. You can receive a phone call that can be able to give you shocking news. And as a result, maybe you're driving at 65 or 80 kilometers per hour, and then it becomes uncontrollable and you're carrying a 20-ton cargo at your back. Do you have those policies in place that can be able to help? If the drivers want to make phone calls, you make it very clear that you can stop the vehicle, have your phone calls, and then you proceed with the journey. Do you have a fitness to work policy? Do you normally carry out maybe medical checkup annually to confirm that your drivers are fit for the job? Okay. Do you do that mapping? Once you do the medical checkup, you can be able to get that some of the drivers maybe you have drivers suffering from diabetes. How do you handle that? How do you handle that? People having epilepsy. The other day I was having a case in some company where somebody having epilepsy. How do you handle that? Somebody's having epilepsy. How do you give a driver a vehicle with that kind of condition? You don't know when it will strike. Do you carry out those kind of assessments? Do you have that policy in place to ensure that you control all those things in place? Now, your policy, most of us have very good policies in book or in record, but have we communicated these policies to the drivers? Do you have the general driving rules? Have you told your drivers, like where I work, we don't allow drivers to go at a speed more than 75 when they are not loaded. And when they are loaded, they're not supposed to go to more than 65. And we have got a fleet management system, which we have said, in a way, it can be able to give us the driver's behavior. We can easily know which driver does harsh braking, which driver is stopping where it's not supposed to stop, which driver is deviating from where the route he has been given is. Do you have those ones documented? Now, the most important thing also in the organization is, have you given clear job description and roles and responsibility of this driver? Because if you employ me as a driver and you don't mean a clear instruction, one of the things I will know is my work is to come to work, sit in a truck, somebody comes and puts load on my truck, and then I move. Or I take the truck to where the load is, then I move. Then nothing else. Do you give clear instructions or clear job description to the drivers for them to know what is their clear role when they're having a driver, when they're driving or when they're having a truck? Do they have that in place? Because if you have that, you will not have a conflict, because he's the CEO, the driver is the CEO of the truck, and therefore anything happening around the truck, from lashing, how the cargo is being loaded, on track checking or inspection before leaving or starting a journey, reporting of accidents on the road, that one is his responsibility. But is it clearly documented? If it's not documented and something happens, then the driver, it's easier to get off the problem. Now, do we empower our staff to be able to stop some of the unsafe unsafe conditions? If, for example, a truck has an issue and you've got a policy in place, that's an organization. the driver has powers or has been empowered to say, excuse me, sir, this truck has got a problem with one tire or two tires and therefore cannot be able to move. Can it be changed? Or there's no policy in place or culture, and therefore the culture is you go until it breaks down for us to be able to repair or replace. All that needs to be in place. Now, my last pillar for us to be able to look at, which is also very key, is health and safety management. The leadership, commitment, and proactiveness of health and safety in a company. Now, are the drivers formally made aware that they are not allowed to carry unauthorized passengers in the vehicle? That one should come out very clear in health and safety management. They need to know whether they're supposed to carry their friends. I see some trucks on the road carrying people, and actually they're doing like passenger, like matatus. They're carrying passengers for them to get something out of it. Do we have the top management coming to talk to drivers about the commitment of the company towards their safety? Okay. Because sometimes by the top managers and top leadership coming to talk to these lower people, it gives them morale and feel like actually we are being protected, or we are being covered, and as a result, they feel like actually we are part and parcel of this company. But I know there's a company that the CEO, the drivers have never seen the CEO, they have never even seen their general manager, and therefore they only deal with their planners and the transport manager. It becomes very difficult now. Do you have health and safety management systems and plan? Does the road transport operation have HSE management system in place? Okay, the one we were talking about. Do you have HSE performance? Do you have a performance matrix whereby you look at it and analyze? Where do you have KPIs? Where do you have a weak point for you to be able to improve on? Do you analyze your KPIs in terms of road transport aspects? Now, how do you address issues when they happen? Actions you take to address and discuss HSE trends. When you see a deviation from a certain HSE practice, what do you do when it comes to health and safety management? What have you put in place to be able to control that? Because without having that in place, then there's nothing you can be able to do. Now, emergency response plan is very important when it comes to health and safety management program in a company. You will see as we move forward, I hope the slides will be able to move, you'll be able to see some of the accidents happened as a result of improper emergency response plan. You have a truck that's stalled on the road. How do you respond to remove that truck from the road to be able to help other road users use it safely? Most of the problems I've seen, even when I'm driving at night, is if you're not very careful, you might end up ramming into a truck that stalled on the road. And most of these trucks stalled on the road on a very funny corners. And most of the accidents happening at night happen as a result of the stalled trucks or improper response plan to the stalled trucks. And therefore, people passing on the road do not see them and hit them on the road. I think leadership and commitment. I've talked about leadership and commitment and proactiveness. And I've talked about the CEO and senior management leading even in terms of accident investigations. It becomes very important, and it shows how they're committed in terms of reducing the road accidents. You should be able to have evidence of monthly HSE meetings discussing about the road aspects and road behaviors and KPIs that you have set in place for you to be able to have action plan to be able to reduce that in place. I think, Norman, up to there, those 5 aspects we have talked about, from the driver management, from the vehicle management, from the journey management and load management. We have looked at organization management, and we have looked at the health and safety management plans in place. Up to that point, if you're able to cover those 5 pillars in your workplace, when it comes to road transport, you'll be able to reduce, I said 70% of your road accidents. Why 70%, not 100%? It's because on the road, you have got other road users. I've said you people who are on the road, or when you are driving on the road, you are the only person who is sane. Another person on the road passing, you take them to be insane. Insane in quotes, meaning that they are not okay. You are the only person who is okay, and therefore you're driving them. So the 30% is the people who are not following road rules and protocols, and then as a result, they come and hit you. Therefore, you don't have a control over that. You might be doing very well on the road, your part. You might be doing very well, but you cannot be able to do everything to the other part. And as a result, the 30% I talked about is people who are on the road and they don't care about the road safety that we have in place. Norman, back to you.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. Truly summarized clear, great insights into road transport management. And if I could sum it up, you've talked about the key pillars, but they as well form what would briefly talk about. One, how can we have a safe driver? And those are the elements Gilbert talked much about. How can we have a safe vehicle? He talked about preventive maintenance as a key aspect. Of course, it includes reporting, where drivers do their checks and report, and then that feeds into your preventive maintenance. Maybe if it's not effective, it could result into those issues that could be reported. Then we looked about the safe journey or the safe road. And I believe when you speak much into the safe road, as he said, there are certain things we control. For instance, if you have your clear journey management plan with clear assessments, you'd be able to at least provide over 70% of managing the whole safety in road transport. And as you can see, with those we are capable of managing and mitigating or even controlling road accidents. And my first key takeaway is, what does this mean to an organization? As you are all in here, the more we manage is the less we should be worried of the probable risks, because we are countering everything within the pillars we've put in place. And in this case, that is where the organizations need to have a road transport or the driving safety program, and that will be easily feeding into this system. So Gilbert, you've really picked a lot of key things. We have one question quickly. If I would go here, it would
Norman,
be
before you got the question,
yes.
before you got the question, sorry, I'm able now to share the screen. I wanted to show members towards the end that, for example, let's look at what went wrong or what failed here. What failed here is health and safety and management. This truck here, the tanker, the one for petrol here, got stalled on the road, and it was not removed on time. And therefore, the bus did not see this truck properly and actually hit and killed a lot of people in Kenya. If you look at the next one here, look at this one. This one happened in Nairobi. Somebody did not do a route survey and is carrying vehicles from Mombasa to Uganda. I think going to Uganda or somewhere. What happened? You have bridges on the road. They did not do a road survey for them to know what is the height of the cargo they're carrying and the bridges we have on, or the flyovers we have on the road. You know, you have to do it from the point of origin to the point of destination. You can see that photo. This one, load management. People carrying coils without having chains. And I've seen these a lot on the road. People having a load on the truck or trailer. It's not lashed. And they're moving. They've only put some small timbers on the front and the back, and they're moving forward. Now you see this one happened also. They killed very innocent people in a matatu. Okay? Yeah, that's what I wanted to share, that these things are real, they happen. It's because people don't take care of them. Now you can go to the questions, Norman.
Okay, team, please, you type your questions in the Q&A tab for ease tracking. I've seen some comments, but there was the first question that came through was talking about someone wanted to know about the proper JMP, what a proper JMP should capture, or a proper journey management plan should capture. So over to you, Gilbert.
Thank you. Now, it's a very good question. What should a journey management capture? Number one, in the journey management, you must have a point of origin. You must know where you are moving from. I'm moving from point A to point B. And therefore, when I'm moving from point A to point B, how many kilometers do we have? We have got, let's say, 1,000 kilometers. How many days am I supposed to move from point A to point B? You break that into in those per day. You say my driver will move how many kilometers to rest in a day. You move from, for example, say from Mombasa, and this driver will rest in Nairobi. That's about 500 kilometers. Now, in between here, the driver should be able to have mandatory stops for the driver to be able to relax, take some tea. For those who smoke, they can smoke because you don't fight smoking. And then in the journey management plan at the bottom there, I wish I could share what I use, but I cannot be able to do that because of data protection. They need to indicate on route A to B, you have got this kind of hazards and you need to take care of these points. So what you need to have in the journey management plan is when to start the journey, from where, when are you supposed to stop in the course of the day, and when are you supposed to have the stops? Where are you supposed to have the stops indicated on it? Thank you. That is that's my answer from my end.
Thank you, Gilbert. Maybe a toss in. I'm seeing someone wants to ask. Okay, but I can just first complete that supplement. A journey management plan is a big question. But as Gilbert has talked about, one, you need to know your journey. From where to where, how long the journey takes, the time, because if you are to set the stopovers or sleepovers, you need to know the distance and the time needed to reach at those places. One example in an industry I was in, I would give is we had no-go zones. Yeah, that was fuel transport. Why? When you're doing your journey management plan, you should base on your journey mapping and that risk assessment, because a person may sleep in a place where you may risk either the vehicle or even risk yourself. And it's so important that in your journey planning, you know how long will it take when a person starts a journey up to the end. And it's so important. Gilbert, you've given much on that. So it's so important for people to understand. And I think maybe takeaways, if people may need maybe a template, because I know, one, it's on a template, but the template is not enough, but how you implement it or do it, maybe that would give more context to the question the person asked. Please, for now, we receive questions in the typing, because if we start this, the speaking may be tricky. So please put your question. I can see Mutoni Suleiman in Mwanza. Would you please type your question in the Q&A or in the chat so that we'd be able to queue it as I pick other questions, because some question had come through, so your arm will be up and I may not be able to quickly give you. So the other question, Gilbert, that came through was, how should we effectively, that came from Solomon Abaho, how should we effectively manage emergencies on the road at an organizational level? That's the question we got from one of our participants.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When you are doing your route survey, one of the things you need to do as a business continuity plan is to identify the people who can be able to help you on the road. For example, from here to Uganda, we have a cargo that we run up to Rwanda. I can tell you that I know every police station and I've got their contacts. And therefore, if I have a problem in a specific location, I know who to call to be able to help me sort my problem. And therefore, what is key is You need to know the right people to be able to help you sort your problem. I know mechanics who are in Nairobi. I know mechanics in Busia. I know mechanics in Uganda somewhere where we are passing through the route. So for you to have a clear and a proper rescue plan, you must know, you must have the right contacts in place. You must know the correct police station where you have a proper GPS address to be able to tell you that. Of course, some people also don't put the emergency numbers on their trucks, but it's very important. An accident can happen. The driver is not able to talk, but somebody can be able to pick the number and be able to call you. But I can tell you I had an accident and I was very far, almost 900 kilometers away, and it was acted within 1 hour and everything was sorted. The fire brigade was on site, the police was on site, and all the rescue team was site. It all depends on the right connection and the correct contacts that you need to have in place. You must know who to call when you need what. It's very important. Yes, Norman?
Thanks, Gilbert. I think that gives a good context. Maybe to add on, you need to also know key facilities, if possible, let's say hospitals. And I think if you're an organization or if you're a logistics company, this can be done in the mapping. And some even go on to engage these key institutions in the case of emergencies to get a person looked after even prior to financial asks. And the other key aspect is mentioned is the key emergency contacts on vehicles. Some usually like putting report bad driving. Please, it doesn't only have to be bad driving. It should be also encourage another part in case of emergencies. Please reach out to this. So, it takes away, maybe people may not like look at it, or maybe people may call you only when it's that. So it's important. How you put it is also very important. So Gilbert, to go on, and the key aspect you mentioned is the IVMS, or maybe you are monitoring. Some systems even put panic. There is where even a driver can press a panic button and there is an incident, or even crash report. It will indicate where a vehicle has crashed. So also integrating modern systems like onboard computers is so important to make sure that your drivers or even people they interact with can be kept safe. Yep, Gilbert, another question. This came from Rachel Natkunda. It's asking what initiatives can be put in place to recognize and appreciate drivers.
Perfect.
Before you ask yes. This, I'll put in another question in this. It's important to have a balance between penalty or punishment and reward. If you are setting up any question, so as you answer this, also look at the other side. If you're penalizing, or where should you penalize and where should you reward? And maybe you can answer fully the question Rachel asked. Thank you. Over to you, Gilbert.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. And I really like handling this question because most of the drivers feel like they're not appreciated, and they're the drivers of the company. The core business, actually what they do, moving on the road is not easy, but at times they feel like they're not recognized or appreciated. Now, in my company, we started a program whereby, the biggest problem on the road with the drivers is fuel. If there's something that as a problem with the drivers is fuel, one of the things that we have given them is, if you have a proper fuel consumption, actually we share what you save. You share what you save. We used to give them money until people could go. They will come back with the tank having fuels. Having fuel remains, but initially somebody could go and ask on the road to be sent fuel, and therefore just give them appreciations when they do fuel consumption, which is perfect. When it comes to incidents, somebody has run over 1 full year. He has not had even an incident or something on the road. It's very important that you reward them. And actually, I've seen this happen in where I work, whereby at the end of the year, when you're giving people bonus, you don't get the same as the person who had 3, 4, 5 accidents. And as a result, you give people morale that actually my effort for the whole year has been appreciated. Now, a driver sees a problem on the road. He calls back and tells you, hey, sir, you know what? I've seen in this corner in Ginger here, I've seen X, Y, Z, and there's a lot of construction going on. And I'm requesting that the people coming from back, you also advise them that they need to divert and use this road. You know, this person has given you an information. What are you supposed to do? When this person comes back, appreciate him. Thank you very much, because you saw something and you gave us information. So when people give you feedback, you can appreciate them by the feedback they give you. When people do things that are unsafe behaviors, for example, through the tracking system we have, somebody is doing harsh braking, somebody is doing overspeeding. Now that one, you don't reward, but you do what we could do, reinduction. You take this person back to training and tell him whatever you are doing, we are seeing, and therefore we could request that you be able to improve on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or do you have a problem of ensuring you comply to this? Out of the discussion, you'll be able to realize maybe he has a problem, or he ignores, or he will tell you whatever he will tell you. But if this person improves from what you discussed, again, you can be able to reward. By rewarding, you can either give them bonuses, you can give them letters of appreciation, not necessarily money. You can also appreciate them even by having them on the note spots. Some people feel very nice. So some people think reward is all about that you need to.
But it seems we've lost you. You breaking. I don't know if you had ended or you're still going.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're audible. You are breaking the last statements.
Sorry, I don't know where I'd reached, but I was talking about rewarding is not necessarily monetary, but it can be in terms of appreciation, in terms of giving a letter, giving a trophy, or giving a promotion at the workplace. You can move a driver from, somebody can move from a driver, and if he has experience and papers, you can give him to move up to be a supervisor or to be a planner. So that's how you can be able to reward drivers. In terms of punishment, the punishment comes in after you have talked to a driver on improving on some areas and is not willing to improve or is not improving. And therefore now you stretch your hand to the negative side of punishment. That we have told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're not able to improve. As a result, either you do the local shanting or you will never go for a trip for the next 1 month. And if it is something that makes a driver to feel bad, is if you tell him not to go on a trip, because on the trip is where they get the mileage on a daily basis. Thank you. Back to you, Naman.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. Those are key initiatives. And maybe to add on a little, it's important to socialize the rewards. What do I mean by socializing? You don't need to give rewards and keep them in those rooms where you've shared. As you've given an example, you can have a list of maybe safe, the drivers who had all their kilometers safe, maybe put on the notes board, may be shared in your intercommunication, because as you understand, drivers may be the last people, maybe people easily know, but remember, there are people who talk to everyone almost as they move us around. So it's so important to socialize your reward system, because they feel appreciated when maybe their picture appears on a notes board for maybe the drivers who drove through maybe 10,000 kilometers without an incident. If it's the end of the year, some can call them road stars. As in, get those names, get those tags that will keep these drivers to understand that they are appreciated and what they do is visible throughout the organization. We have another question I would look at. Someone asked, how do you balance company deadlines and driver safety? And I think this is the same question. How do you balance commercial with health and safety? So I've not changed the question, but Gilbert, for your digestion and speaking out, that's the question we have. It came from Maureen. So over to you, Gilbert.
Sorry, the question was? How do you balance company deadlines and driver safety?
Deadlines and driver safety, yes, please.
Now, sometime back, I was called by a client that he needed some cargo by the following day morning, and it's already 3 p.m. In the day. And he was telling me I should give the drivers the sleeping drugs. Now, my answer is very clear. As a client, you must have a plan, and you must also know when you want what. We can't do magic, and I cannot do against the law, giving people the present and sleeping drugs. Now, how do you balance between Kanban deadlines and driver safety? Is that number one, the Kanban deadlines must be smart. They must be objective, of course, and must be achievable. If they are achievable with the proper planning, you can be able to achieve it safely. The safety aspect is not there to delay the deadlines. The safety is there to be able to ensure that you take the cargo safely to where it's supposed to be. Otherwise, if you don't, then you'll be able to ruin a road on the road. I think like the photo I showed you here, those were new vehicles going to the showroom. Now you have ruined. Maybe somebody had already ordered. Now this person has now to wait again for some time. Look at that time. If it's insurance, look at that premiums you are increasing on your end. And therefore, when it comes to deadlines, the deadlines should be able to be achievable and to be realistic. Now, safety, when you have a plan, safety comes in to assist you achieve that. And of course, when you are setting deadlines and targets, let safety aspect be in it. Let safety be incorporated in your planning. So if you have the planning properly done with the proper journey management plans, and you know how many days you can take to reach somewhere, then the safety aspect will not be an issue. But on top of that, we need to look at what we call the mental health issues of the drivers. Being on the road again also for so long, they've not seen their families, they come and go. We need to look at that very importantly. Mental issues of the drivers and of course the fatigue management is very key. I think, Maureen, I've answered your question.
Thanks, Gilbert. I see we are remaining with 2 minutes on our planned time. And I believe there was a good interaction of the questions to the extent that some of our team on board is answering some of the questions. But there was one last question someone, Godfrey Owino, asked, and he asked about journey management tracking to the full, to its fullest, or how you can track a journey management plan and that it is fully followed. I don't know if that can be something you would quickly go on to, and then we can quickly sum up
That's a quick one, and I've seen his message privately. I will share with you, Godfrey, my journey management plan. Now, the journey management plan is a document that takes a driver to where he's supposed to destination and coming back. So when you plan for the driver, today you are moving from here to this point, this is where you will sleep. Before you reach here where to sleep, you're supposed to rest in 1 and 2 locations. So the driver is supposed to indicate on that journey management plan at what time and the day he slept. So when he goes and comes back, you need to check on that document whether did the driver follow the journey management plan you gave him. For it to be fully followed, it must come back to you. You plan with him on how he's going and coming back. When he comes back, he should be able to give you that document. If there are deviations on that document, that, for example, is supposed to arrive in 3 days and he arrived in 4 days, they should be indicated in that journey management plan. For example, there was a road construction and we had a delay, and therefore I slept in a place I was not supposed to sleep. Or I reached on site, instead of coming back on this day, I did not come back because the client delayed to offload the cargo. So all those things need to be on the journey management plan. But for it to be effective, it must go and come back to your desk, the person who planned.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. See, we've reached the end of our time. I wish we had more time to go deep into this, because this is a very sensitive, including, and by the way, what are the key takeaways from this discussion? One, it may not only, you may need to transport this into your own personal life. People who drive their vehicles, exactly everything fits into this. journey management doesn't need to be written down exactly, but you need to have a research. You're traveling up country, you don't know the place, you even don't know where you're going. So how can this be a problem? Maybe you may end up on a long road and either lose your day's plan or either end up in a place you don't want to be. So it's very important that even if this is speaking into the fleet management of an organization, most of the practices we look at here are things we can take back home. As a driver, as a person, how many times have you had your medical checked? Key aspects of your life, in your lives, because you're a driver. Even if we're speaking about the other driver who transport people in a company, here you are the same person driving, most especially, let's say you're even driving, let's say from here to Kenya. It's a long journey. Are you capable of driving? Or maybe your blood pressure is high, or you have sugar high levels. So it's so important that even if we are discussing this in the context of the organization, to drive this culture, it starts with you. The other 30% Gilbert talked about of road users includes me and you. So it's very important to find, we shouldn't only depend on the organizations, because sometimes organizations do not transport people from and to the workplaces. It's us that drive. So you don't want to be a statistics of the other 30% of a crazy driver, as Gilbert says it, or the insane one. We should all be sane drivers on the road. We should be able to interpret the highway codes and whatever traffic regulations are in the place. So it's so important that we don't only look at these as systems in workplaces, but these are systems we can take away as people at home. How many times have you checked your vehicle? How many times have you opened the bonnet? Did you even actually go to a driver training school? It's never too late. If you are able to drive, you can still go and do defensive driving. So I don't know, Gilbert, you can have a few concluding remarks. I can see Liz with the hand up. Let me give Liz just to say something, and then Gilbert, you can sum up and give a takeaway. In less than 2 minutes, we should be closing this. Elizabeth? I'm unable to mute you, so if you can't be unmuted, I'll give that back to Gilbert to close the session.
Thank you very much, Norman. It was very good to have engagement, and this webinar, it was very nice. It actually also helped me when I was doing my research to come for here, to have someone to things to remember and actually recall. Sorry.
Norman.
It's Rachel.
Before Gilbert closes, can we get someone from SHAO? I see the Vice President on call. Can we get someone from SHAO to give some remarks? Then Gilbert can be able to close.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. I don't know if, would you be able to unmute her?
Yes, she's unmuted.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rachel. I think you can go on, our person, and give your remarks regarding this webinar. Thank you.
Norman, are you able to hear me?
Very audible.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Gilbert, for the session. I'm sure it was very insightful. The conversation and the engagement, I'm sure it is something that we need to continue and to bridge up to, but also to further engage and to ensure that our transportation system, our workplace, and the road safety is really, really prioritized throughout. I think the key takeaways, I've seen the discussion in the chat, and it was really interesting. We are learning from each other. For those of you who are not SHAO members, of course, you're encouraged to join. If you're Ugandan, please ensure that you are registered SHAO member to enjoy more of this. but also to remind us that we have a conference in Kenya and you're able to meet Gilbert in person. Yeah, so do not, we should be in Mombasa on the 18th October next month. So let's all ensure that we attend. Those who can, please make it a point. The world is global and you've realized that now. Gilbert is saying, I have mechanics in Mombasa, I have mechanics on Busia, I have mechanics in Uganda. So let's make East Africa as small as we can so that we're able to do our work effectively and efficiently. Yeah, much thanks for all of you who made the time to join this webinar. And I think more of these are really, really appreciated. Thank you very much. Back to you, Norma.
Thank you, Franklin, for those good words, for those key insights. As we've said, there's no longer a boundary between Uganda and Kenya. I will allow me to get Gilbert to close this and maybe invite us again for the dinner in Mombasa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norman. Thank you, Shao, for organizing this one. I've shared on my screen the reference materials the members can use. I can be able to see how to make the proper notes and then share maybe for members to be able to share. I want to appreciate all members who have attended. Sharing is caring, and actually uplifting each other is what is very important. We learn from each other, and I've learned also from the responses I've seen Gloria responding and to others. That's very good. As we move on, if you can confirm that East Africa has become very small, and let's continue to work together towards ensuring we have safe roads, we have safe cultures in our workplaces, such that we create an impact. To complete, I will say I'm welcoming all of you to Mombasa, Kenya in October 17 and 18 for our conference. It will be a good one. We have planned very good things. People to come and swim. There will be winding and unwinding. We'll also learn and unlearn. And therefore, I'll take this opportunity through WASPAC leadership to invite you officially that you are actually invited to come. Thank you very much, the organizers. And may God bless you, and may you have a safe day ahead.
Thanks, Gilbert. Thanks, everyone. And keep safe. I call this the end of our discussion. Thank you.